The year was 1955. The South still clung to its segregation, and the North, though less overtly hostile, was no true haven. Oliver Bryant, born to poverty in a small southern town, had learned early on what it meant to be a black man in a white man's world. His father was a factory worker, his mother a weary woman who spent her days scrubbing floors in homes that weren't her own. By the age of 18, Oliver was a mechanic, a quiet man with hands stained by grease and a spirit that refused to be broken. Sarah Whitmore, on the other hand, had known only privilege. Her father, Charles Whitmore, was a man of immense influence and wealth, a firm believer in the sanctity of bloodlines and the superiority of his race. But Sarah was a restless soul, suffocating under the weight of expectations. She was supposed to be a demure, obedient wife, but her heart yearned for a life beyond the gilded cage her father had built. They met at a clandestine jazz club, one of the few places where the rigid lines of segregation blurred under the cover of night. Oliver, with his dark, polished skin and quiet confidence, saw in Sarah not a rich white girl, but a woman with a dangerous spark in her eyes. Sarah, with her cascade of blonde hair and a defiance that burned bright, saw in Oliver a strength she had never known. Their connection was instant, intoxicating, and recklessly foolish. The first time Charles Whitmore saw them together, his rage was a silent, terrifying force. He dragged Sarah away, and the next day, a note was slipped under the garage door, a cold, ambiguous threat. "Stay away from my daughter." But the threat only solidified their resolve. In the dead of night, they ran. They boarded a freight train bound for a factory town in Illinois, a place where a mixed-race couple was a rarity, but not a crime. Their new life was hard. Oliver worked long hours at the steel mill, his body aching from the relentless heat and labor. Sarah took a job as a seamstress, her delicate hands becoming rough and calloused. They lived in a cramped boarding house, their days a struggle for survival, but they had each other. Their wedding was a quiet affair in a tiny church, a simple exchange of promises with no guests, no flowers, just the two of them. The years passed. Their family grew, first with the birth of their son, Isaac, and then their daughter, Margaret. Isaac was a beautiful blend of them both, a living testament to their love. Margaret was a force of nature, loud and unafraid. Their life was not easy, but it was theirs, built with sweat and love. But Sarah carried a secret, a ghost from her past that she had buried deep. Before Oliver, there had been another man, a fleeting, forbidden romance. She was a teenager, and her family, fearing a scandal, had kept the pregnancy hidden. Her father had arranged for a quiet adoption. She had barely been allowed to hold her newborn son before he was taken away, erased from her life as if he had never existed. When she met Oliver, she had buried that past, built a new life, and a new love on its ruins. She never told Oliver. The guilt was a heavy stone in her chest. As the years passed, the secret began to poison her. She grew distant, quieter. Oliver, a man of few words, noticed the change. He saw the way she would stare into the distance, lost in thought. He saw her flinch whenever adoption was mentioned, a flicker of pain in her eyes. He respected her silence, but a distance grew between them, one that he didn't know how to bridge. He wondered what she was hiding, and for the first time, he questioned if he truly knew his wife at all. Then, the letters began to arrive. The first was from her father, a short, chilling message that made her stomach twist. "You do not understand what you have done." It was a warning, a threat from a man who never accepted defeat. The second letter was different. It had a different handwriting, an unfamiliar message. "I know who you are." It was about her past, about the child she had given away. The world she had so carefully constructed began to crack. She didn't tell Oliver. She couldn't. The fear was too great. But Oliver found the crumpled letter hidden in her dresser, and the shift in his eyes, the dawning realization, was a wound in itself. She was slipping away from him, and he didn't know how to stop it. The sickness came slow, and then all at once, a relentless ache in her chest, a cough that stole her breath. The doctor's words were calm, It was her heart failing. Nothing could be done. Oliver refused to accept it, searching for a second opinion, but the answer was always the same. She was dying. In her final days, she knew she had to tell him everything. She had spent a lifetime keeping secrets, now it was time to set them free. She told him about the money she had hidden away, about her doubts in the early years of their marriage, about her father's haunting influence, and finally, she told him about her first child, the son she had abandoned, the life she had erased. She confessed that when she had married him, it was not out of love, but out of fear and escape from a life she could not bear. Oliver sat in silence, his face unreadable. She felt the tears slide down her cheeks. Then she told him the one thing that was true, that despite everything, despite the lies and the secrets and the mistakes, she had come to love him. She loved him more than she had ever thought possible. He said little in the days that followed. He simply took care of her, held her when the pain was too much. The last thing she felt was his arms around her, a whisper so soft she barely heard it, and as she closed her eyes for the last time, she smiled, because she knew, in that moment, that he had forgiven her. Or maybe he hadn't. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe love was not about perfection. Maybe it was about choosing to stay, even when it hurt. After she was gone, the house felt so quiet. Oliver sat in the silence, staring at the empty space beside him. He had spent his life fighting to be seen, to be enough. And now, in the home he had built, in the arms of the woman he had loved, he questioned if he had ever truly belonged. He found the letters again, the ones she had hidden away, the threats from her father, the warnings, and the last one, the one with the unfamiliar handwriting, the one that had broken her. "I know who you are." He read it again, a single sentence that shattered what was left of his world. "Your son is looking for you." His hands tightened around the paper. Their son, not Isaac or Margaret, the one she had given away, a son out there searching for answers. And now she was gone, and all that was left were questions that could never be answered. He sat in the silence, grieving not just for her, but for the life he had thought was real. What if it had been Isaac? What if someone had taken his son from him, erased him, made him a secret? He knew then what he had to do. The past had already taken too much. He wasn't going to let it take anything more. One morning, before the sun had fully risen, Oliver left the house. He walked to the post office, the letter clenched in his hand. He would find this boy. He would give him the truth that had been stolen from him. Even if it hurt, even if it changed everything.